Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingman Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My wingman, my friend, the guy who watches my six is Dr. Paul Thompson. How you doing today, brother Paul?
Oh, Commander Drew, I'm doing very well today. Glad to see you. We'll have another good show today. And from your background, it looks like you like airplanes a lot. Is that right?
I like airplanes a lot, and I got a whole bunch of them behind me. I got a good quote for you today, too. And this is by somebody that I'd like, I guess we should tell people a little bit about. This is by Josephine Baker. And she said, I believe in action. I believe in doing rather than talking. Once again, I believe in action. I believe in doing rather than talking. And that comes from my 11 facts in life also, the art of thought, the art of communication, and the art of action, because nothing happens without you doing something about it. That's action. But tell me a little bit about Josephine, Dr. Paul.
Okay, I know you've heard of her. Josephine Baker, uh, she's from the United States originally. She was famous, most famous overseas. You know where she's from originally?
Where?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, wow.
You like, and she basically, I think she was born in 1905 or so. But she made her mark in France. She left the United States, I think, around the time of what they call Bloody Summer. That was 1919. And there were a lot of racial riots, actually rampages that went through the United States at that time. She was part of a dance troupe that she joined like when she was a teenager, basically kind of left home and became very famous in France. World War II. She was a spy. She was a spy. She joined the French resistance and she worked in the French underground basically and was a spy and got information because I guess after the Germans took over France, they allowed her to perform and she still performed. And that she gave information. She wrote in invisible ink on music sheets and passed it to the Allies because the German officers would just speak candidly in front of her. Maybe they didn't think she knew anything or could speak. But she's actually buried in the Pantheon in France now. And that's where people of I guess, the highest French, I would say, nobility or the highest ranking people from France are buried.
Black people back then were treated much in Europe than they were here in America. A lot of black people went to France, and some of them even joined the French Foreign Legion. Isn't that true?
Yes, there are people from the French Foreign Legion from around the world to this day. They're from everywhere. You just have to get through the training, which is very, very difficult. There's a Navy SEAL who's got a broadcast I've listened to a few times. He became a French Foreign Legion, a Legionnaire.
Paul, did you know that when I was on the Nimitz, we actually flew with the French? And you know how basketball players trade jerseys? Well, me and this other pilot, we traded patches, and I actually have a patch on my flight jacket from the French Foreign Legion.
Okay. Now, is the French Foreign Legion or the French Air Force or French Navy?
It was the French Air Force, but he told me it was a French Foreign Legion patch.
Really? Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. He probably traded with somebody else.
Probably did. Well, the show today, why don't we have enough air traffic controllers? This is very serious, Paul, because you and I flew for many years. And ATC, which is air traffic control, they're like God in the sky. When you hear them, you react, you actually repeat what they say, and you do what they say. There's no back and forth discussion when they give you an order. And what's happening now is that we don't have enough of them. We're supposed to have about 14,000 of them, and we only have 10,000. What do you think about that, Paul?
Yeah, that's been a problem for the better part of a decade, I found out. And anybody that's gone to the I guess they call it the ATC school, the academy in Oklahoma City to train air traffic controllers.
I don't know anybody who went there, but I know the requirements are pretty strict to actually get a job. Now, they say you can make up to $180,000 if you're in a high traffic area after many years of being a controller. So the pay and the top end is not bad. But here's a couple of things you have to be, Paul. You have to be a U.S. citizen. You cannot be over 31 years old. You have to have a medical exam. You also have to have 3 years of work experience or a bachelor's degree or both, actually. And they like the military and speak English clearly and fluently. So there's a lot of things you need to even become an air traffic controller.
Yeah, you have to have like an organized mind. You know what the retirement age is for air traffic controllers?
Pretty young. I think it's 56.
Yeah, 56. So you got to be between what the age of 30 and 56, which is more than a quarter of a century, but that's kind of an early retirement. And I guess that's because it's a hectic job and it's a stress-filled job.
And let me just tell you what they make actually. When you first start off training, they make $25,000 a year, and that's in the FAA Academy. You have to go there for a certain amount of time. And then when you become an entry level controller, you make between 40 and 50,000. When you become a certified controller, you make between 80 and 130. And then once again, if you're in a high traffic area, you get up to $180,000 a year. But they also said you're working 60 hours a week and everybody works overtime. It's a hell of a job, Paul.
Yeah, so there's a lot of overtime. They probably make more than what the numbers you just quoted. But I guess it's a problem because some of them are getting, burned out. You can only do that but so long. So the shortage is real, and they've cut down flights because of not enough of everybody. Still, some of this is from COVID, and others from economics. But air traffic control is a job prospect that some of you might be interested in. It's a tough process, but well worth it if you put your best foot forward.
Yeah, you could retire at 56. Not bad.
Right.
And Paul, also, air traffic controllers, like we were talking about, they're like the voice of God in the air. And whatever they say, you must do. Isn't that true?
Yeah, that's true, unless you've got a really good reason not to, and that might be if you've declared an emergency and some other technical things. I mean, typically you do what they say unless there's something that's going to put you in danger. So there are times when they give you an instruction, you might say, hey, hey, can we do this? Can we do that? There's a huge thunderstorm to the right. I don't need to go to the right.
Right.
Maybe
Right.
they can't see it sometimes.
Yeah, weather you do have some discussion when you can see weather.
Yeah.
We don't fly into storms. So
Right.
sometimes I guess you can talk to air traffic
Yeah.
control. But, to have a job with them, it's an incredible job. And one other thing, if you like chaos, and there are some people who like chaos, this is the job for you because it is really demanding and very chaotic, and you have to be on it 100% of the time.
Yeah, yeah, there's a difference in controllers too. I think it's one thing to be in Chicago or JFK or LaGuardia, and another one to be in the middle of the country where there's like 10 airplanes a day or something versus 10 a second.
Well, they say they have up to 45,000 flights a day, ATC here in America, and they're covering 29 million miles of flying. There's a lot of airplanes up there. And I think we even have a graph that you got for me to
Yeah.
show just how congested it could be up there.
All the time. There's people flying all the time, all over the world. You can see that map around the world too. A lot of planes in there.
And, one other thing, let's just tell the audience, you have to speak English. Even when you fly international, the the language of airlines, of air traffic controllers all over the are English.
That's
Is
true. Yeah, that's true. Every once in a while, some places they will go into their native tongue every once in a while.
Yeah, in China, remember you'd go into China and all of a sudden they'd start talking Chinese to the Chinese pilots.
Yeah, I've Chinese, I've seen India, I've seen Spanish in South America every once in a while. I don't know. Okay.
All right. Well, let's talk about some good news then. And if you want to be an air traffic controller, we're going to have a newsletter. Our newsletter comes out on wingmanshow.com. And actually, the newsletter this week is going to be how to become an air traffic controller. So, some good news. Paul, Verizon, the company Verizon, erased $10 million in debt for 6,500 North Carolinians. And that's when they had the hurricanes and the floods. 6,500 people got $10 million. And I thought it was phone bills. It wasn't. It was all kind of debt, especially medical debt. How cool is that for a company?
That's great. I saw that. It included medical debt and revolving credit and a lot of other stuff to people who lost literally everything in a hurricane, in the mountains, which typically doesn't happen, but they got slammed. I told you the other day a tornado hit my property. We had like
Yeah,
little
I saw that. A tree came down, Paul.
Yeah, a tree came down and it's gone. We took care it was taken care of. I took care of part of it and paid some guys to take care of the other part of it. But we were lucky actually. So I always
Well,
said I was never around a tornado, but actually I was in one. I saw it kind of go by. Took like 2 seconds.
weather's getting bad all over the place, and you should be very careful. And when they say bad weather's coming, you need to take cover.
Yeah.
All right, how about this? We are going to have boxing in the Olympics. The funny thing is, I didn't know we weren't going to have boxing in the Olympics, but it seems that the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, kicked boxing out because the the federation that controlled it, they were controlled by Russians. They were accused of cheating and stealing, and they were going to actually make a decision not to have boxing in the Olympics anymore, Paul.
I saw that and they just decided to have it just recently, actually. It was on the chopping block. And the International Olympic Committee said it'll be boxing in the 2028 Olympics. Because in the past it was pretty corrupt. I'd watch some of the stuff and look at the outcome. I said, you gotta be kidding. And I thought that was just me thinking that. No, Teddy Atlas
Well,
was saying all these people say, what are they doing? Why even have it? That's bad. I'm glad it's gonna be back.
I grew up in boxing, and boxing in the world has become really corrupt. And guys like Don King and Bob Arum, they really ruined boxing because what happened was they would give you contracts that you had to keep fighting with them if you wanted a good fight. So if you had a good fighter that wanted to fight the champion, then one of these promoters said, the only way you can fight this champion is if you give me your next 10 fights. And so what happens, it wasn't competition anymore. It was who could get the most money, who could make the best deals, and boxing became very corrupt. And that's why I guess the new sport in the cage is working so well, don't you think?
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I was just going to ask you if you thought the rise of MMA, the mixed martial arts, was in part due to the lack of popularity of boxing. Because I can't really tell you the top five heavyweights or whatever, currently. But I know a bunch of the UFC people, and they've done a better job of marketing.
Yeah, UFC just does something to me. I mean, hurt somebody that bad or to actually try to hurt somebody that bad just doesn't fit right with me. But, it's a big, big sport. But I guarantee you, I don't think they're cheating in that sport. And I think that's why the rise came.
I think so too. Yeah.
All right. Check out my planes, which are many, and those are modern warplanes. But look behind Dr. Paul. He has a T-44. Matter of fact, when he showed me that picture, I was like, I don't know what that prop plane is, but I do know what it is because the only planes I ever knew were the ones that I was around in the Navy, and a T-44 was the trainer for props. And I went in the Navy basically to become an airline pilot, and I should have gone props so you could fly big planes. I went jets, though, thank God. I got to pick jets, and they gave it to me. But that T-44 was in Corpus Christi, and that's where I learned by the T-28, Paul.
Yeah, yeah. I think they're just there in that one spot. I remember I rode aboard one once as a passenger. I was a guest actually. It was kind of nice. It's a Beechcraft King Air. I said it was a Queen Air, but it's a King Air. And you know something? They're replacing that airplane. That's an airplane. They've got a new airplane coming out to replace it called a T-54, also made by Beechcraft. More modern, about the same size. but they use that to train folks in the Navy who are going to go, props, flying the E-2 and the C-130 and the few propeller-driven airplanes they have. Got to go through their program.
Yeah. When you go through flight training in the Navy, that's what I can speak about. But you get to choose props, jets, or helos when you finish training. And based on the needs of the Navy, that's what you're going to go fly. And if you get picked for props, you're going to fly that T-44 King Air. And now Dr. Paul just said they're going to have a new plane. But that plane right there has been around for a very long time. And one other thing about Corpus Christi, you were a private pilot. You knew something about flying when you got in the Navy. Myself, I knew not one thing. I hardly could spell aerodynamics. But when they asked me what did I want to fly, the T-34 to learn or the T-28, no kidding, I asked them which one is harder to fly. And they said the T-28. And I said, that's the one I want to fly. Because if I'm going to learn this, I might as well learn with the hardest airplane there is. And that's what I did, Dr. Paul.
Yeah, you know what they used to call the T-28?
No.
They call it the Ensign Eater.
Oh, my
Yeah,
goodness.
that's what they told. And that's a powerful sucker. That's your first airplane. I remember it's 1,425 brake horsepower. I don't know why I remember that. That's a lot. That's 10 times like the 150s I was.
Yes, and it's loud as hell. Matter of
Yeah.
fact, the first time I ever gotten one and they started it up, it was a ground train. It didn't even have wings, so we know we weren't going to fly.
Yeah.
But they started it up to do a bailout, and they told me to do three things, and the only thing I could remember saying was Mayday, 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 Mayday. And that's what I said. And then I jumped out of the little cockpit. So, anyway, that's that. Everybody, thank you so much for watching our show on YouTube, on TikTok, Instagram, listening to our show on Apple Podcasts and iHeart Radio. Thank you so much for all of your support. And once again, our website is wingmanshow.com. That's wingmanshow.com. And on that website, we have our newsletter this week is how to become an advocate controller. But we also have something called the frequent flow line. And that's where you guys get to ask Dr. Paul and myself any question you want. And I got one. I got one from Brooklyn, where I come from. A 69-year-old man from Brooklyn says, love your show. Should I be worried about flying now since there are so many airplane crashes? Paul, go ahead and take that one quick.
Okay, to our viewer from Brooklyn, thank you for liking the show. Pass it on to your friends. We appreciate your support. Yeah, as far as flying goes, should you be worried? I'm gonna say no, because you're gonna be worried about everything. Yeah, there's some bad stuff in the news that has happened lately. And airplanes are complex machines, and things can go wrong. But for the most part, it is still the safest way of flying. I've had a couple of incidents in the air, but I've had a couple of really bad incidents on the ground in cars.
Did you know that airplanes are the safest mode of transportation? You know,
Yes,
anybody just ask Siri or Google what's the safest mode, and they will tell you that it's flying.
it is flying because everybody basically has to have their act together. They have to have their act together all the time. There may be mistakes. Driving on the road, that's not the case, and you see that all the time. I'd say go take your trip, go fly. Don't get all hung up with some investigative report about some airline or somebody got kicked off because they rubbed a flight attendant the wrong way. Nobody here would do that. So, you know, but enjoy your flight. Everybody has a lot of high standards. The standards haven't changed for air traffic control or pilots. Some of these things were written in the 50s and they're updated constantly. Don't get wrapped up with some of the political BS either. People are flying and everybody wants to arrive alive.
Everybody wants to arrive alive. And Paul, that last crash that we saw, that the plane flipped over and went down the runway upside down, I called that actually. I saw that airplane coming down to land and it was coming down way too hard. And because it tilted to the right a little bit, it slammed on that gear strut. And what happened is that gear strut broke. It rolled over, snapped that wing off, and slid down that runway. But I knew that it was an extra hard landing that might have been okay if you hit both wheels on this at the same time.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, basically the gearbox, so they call it that failed, and MD-11 you could have that too. The gearbox is not as strong as the on some of the Boeing airplanes. That's just fact, and it kind of rolls because you lost that wing, and the other wing is giving lift, so it rolled and it's doing what it's actually supposed to do. That's terrifying, but that's what happens when you get lift on one side, no lift on the other.
You wrote us and you asked us, should you be scared of flying? The answer is no. Dr. Paul and I both say you should be okay with flying. It is a very safe mode of transportation. And yes, there are accidents, but there are a lot more car accidents. You can get hit by a car quicker than getting hurt in an airplane.
Right. Yeah. I,
All right. You know what that brings me to? That brings me to a Wingman PSA. From the 11 facts in life, under fact number 6, greed. Greed. The love of money is evil. Greed. The love of money is evil. Dr. Paul, I always have said money's not evil. It's the love of money that's evil. Like people who just want more and more and more. They don't even buy stuff with their money. They just hoard their money. That's really a sin called greed. And I don't understand, and I'm not trying to be political, but I guess I am, how the richest person in the world could not care about people who don't get to eat. It just doesn't make sense to me, Paul.
I agree. There's still a lot of starving people and just an imbalance of those who have a lot and those who have nothing.
Well, I always said I wanted to grow up to be a philanthropist because if I had all that money that some of these people have, I'd work every day to try to give it to somebody that can use it better than I could. I just think that that's the way of the world. All right, let's talk about the gouge here. The gouge. What is the gouge? Well, in the Navy, the gouge is shit you need to know, nobody tells you. But I did want to tell you, what do you think the happiest country in the world is? For 8 years in a row. Can you
Okay.
tell me, Paul?
I was gonna guess I would just guess Switzerland.
Well, that's kind of close to it. It is Finland. For the last 8 years, it is the happiest place on the planet. And the top 10 are Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Sweden, Netherlands, Costa Rica for the very first time, Norway, Israel, Luxembourg, and also Mexico for the very first time. Those are the happiest countries in the world. And I love to be happy, Paul. You went to Finland, actually. I want to go there. And I do take saunas. I have a sauna in my house, and they said that 90% of people in Finland do a sauna every week. So maybe that helps them become happy.
Yeah, yeah, Finland was cool. Some time ago I was there. I had no problems. People were friendly. They're fairly quiet. Um, and they like to walk a lot and they walk quickly. I remember that.
You told me that. And
They're
you also
tall and they
told me
walk
that
quickly.
they're very tall.
Yeah, yeah, they're definitely taller than average.
I'm going to throw you a curveball here. What country do you think is the world's best family friendly country? Now, this is for families to go to.
Okay. The only reason I'm the sign of age, I was going to say maybe Austria because I'm visualizing Julie Andrews and The Sound of Music. Make, that makes no sense, but that's that's that programming. We've been programmed.
Very good. It's a surprise, Paul. I could not believe it. And we're going to have to show it on the map where it is. Sri Lanka is supposed to be a beautiful place and is the top family friendly country in the world. The top 10 are Sri Lanka, Sweden, Norway, New Zealand, Iceland, Germany, Finland. Denmark, Australia, and dun, 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 the USA is number 10 on the top 10 friendliest countries in the world. Tell me
Okay.
something about that, Paul.
Well, the Sri Lanka, never been there. It's lies just to the southeast, or lower the corner, southeast of India. There's like 20 million people there. I guess it's friendly. I know there have been a lot of demonstrations against the government last few years. So if you're traveling there, you might want to look look for some travel advisories. But yeah, go to India if you can. That's a life can be a life-changing experience too.
It sure is. It stopped me from wearing my Rolex. I was wearing my Rolex once in a bus when we flew to India, and there were so many poor people I saw. It just didn't feel right for me to be wearing a Rolex. And I don't know, that's just how I felt.
Yeah.
All right, the name of our show is called The Wingman Show, and that's because we highlight people who help other people. And this week we got a smoker. He's a second grader, 9 years old, Jason Branch. Now, we always talk about kids watching too much videos, YouTube, this and that. Well, thank God for YouTube, because my man Jason saved 7-year-old Danye Moore from choking to death. Danye obviously choked on a granola bar. And guess what Jason learned in YouTube? He learned the Heimlich maneuver. And as soon as he saw him choking, and we'll have pictures to actually show him running over there, he grabs him, he gives the Heimlich maneuver twice and saved this kid's life. I guess watching YouTube is way, way more educational than I thought. There's some good stuff on there. What do you think?
Yeah, that's a great story. And there is some great stuff on YouTube. I've seen some fantastic things, fix things, do things. This was a case where, a young child learned to save a life, something that neither of them will forget. There's some good stuff there. It's not just people who are hateful or doing stupid, pet things or weird stuff. There's a lot of useful information. I mean, you can learn thermodynamics and advanced math on it if from a lot of sources, or waste your time. So it comes down to choice.
Well, I'll be honest with you. It wasn't until my son Drew told me, hey, everything I want to do and I don't know, I go right to YouTube and it tells you everything.
I've
Then I had something I needed to do, and I was like, there's no way this is on YouTube. I'll be damned. It was putting a light in my Tesla, in my Cybertruck, uh,
uh
one of the door lights to make it fancy. And I said, there's no way this is going to be on YouTube. And I'll be damned if it wasn't. Step by step instructions.
Yeah, there's thousands. Well, how many? I think we covered it one time. How many hours of coverage goes on YouTube? It's in the hundreds of thousands of hours per day, or something, some big number like that.
Well, we sure like when they watch us on YouTube, don't we, Paul?
Yes, we do.
That's some good stuff on YouTube. All right, everybody, anybody who can hear my voice, anybody who can see me, I wish upon you whatever you think is important, whatever you think is beautiful, and especially whatever makes you happy in this world, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew. It's good to see you again. We appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. Send us out to a friend of yours, or even somebody you don't like. Just give them something positive. If they learn one thing that's good, that's a good day. Please give us a like, share, subscribe. Helps the YouTube algorithm spread the message to more people. And we look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and refer to use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome.
and we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.